Yo, what up? Blendzino back here to demonstrate another tutorial. This time it's the burst taper. As you see, I will start off disinfecting my equipment. These are the speed lines with the number 3. Making sure to get the long hair out of my way. I use some clips, using my comb to comb out any long hairs or loose hairs. Demonstrated that it was actually 3 open and not closed. I like to call that a 3.5. We're going to do more of an undercut look with curls texturized on top. A lot of people wonder how I get my line so crispy. This is one easy way to try to get it a little sharper. What I'm going to do is make sure that there's no long hair sticking over his hairline. I don't want to go at his line 3 and 4 times or push his hairline back. I just want to go at it once. So I did the same thing on the front as I did on the sides. But that only goes for certain clients. I don't do that for everybody. Still going at it with this 3.5, knocking all this bulk down. Just like I said on my last video, I try to clear the canvas, make sure I can see what I'm doing, clean everything up. Back with that 3.5, knocking the bulk down. As you can see, it's a 3.5 even, so it doesn't matter if you go with or against the grain. I just want to achieve a 3.5. Preferably to go against the grain. These are my wall detailers. I like to use these to put my first guideline in. We're going to do a bald burst taper. So I'm cleaning up the hair beneath my guideline. And as you can see, I leave the edges dark because I want to leave a darker, more sharp line on each side of the neck. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're blending this out. For the burst taper, it's a little different. What I'm going to do is start from about the top of the ear, maybe a little lower than the top of the ear, and put in almost like a circle or a half circle and bald that out. We're going to burst, fade, just the taper area, and that's where I come with the burst taper and not the burst fade. It's just a taper, but that burst effect and blend. Make sure you don't press too hard with your liners when you put in these first guidelines, because the harder you press with your liners or edgers, the harder it will be to take that line out. I'm trying to stay really light with my hands here. So repeating the same steps on the right side as I did on the left, using my mirror to make sure they're even, or just about even. Go ahead and touch a little bit up on this left side. I must have seen something that wasn't exact. Just like most barbers, I'm a super perfectionist. So this is our first guideline to the burst taper. Clean off the facial hair a little bit, make sure you got some nice clean look. These are the 5-star magic clips that I'm using now. Right now I opened them up with no guard on, putting in a second guideline, maybe about a ½ inch up. Kind of up to you and to the client as far as how high you take a taper. Some people like their taper really low, some people like it pretty high. As you can see, I'm flicking out. I'm not putting a hard line in, a very soft blend. And here I go with the same magic clips, close them, and I'm flicking out that guideline I set with my wall detailers to achieve my first blend. So once again, we went wall detailers for my first guideline, the wall magic clips, open, set a guideline, close them with no guard to flick out that first guideline. This is number 1. I'm setting another guideline. Again, I start open. My client here, Texturizing, likes this taper a little bit higher. Here's a number 2. What I'm going to do is blend in from my 1 up to my 3.5, or my 3 open, and that's a 0. I'm going to work my way back down and get rid of that blend at the bottom. What I like to do is start open and end closed and work my way back down, so I'm not taking the blend up any higher than where it's at now. I'm going to keep the blend where it's at and just work my way backwards back to my magic clips, and that's a 0 guard, or 1/16. Kind of fluctuating in between open and closed, trying to achieve If you noticed on my last video, I used Andis Masters. Well, they kind of pooped out on me, so I had to take what's next and what's best. So I picked up some magic clips, fast feeds, or speed lines, which are the same clipper, and they work just as good as the Masters. They're just a little lighter, so I prefer these now. So now I have my 1 guard on. Working my blend a little more. I like to fluctuate in between different sizes. If you're an up-and-coming barber, you'll get used to it. Trust me, I had to get used to it. You'll kind of see hair different. You'll see hairs that it looks like it might be a 1, but really it's just an open. So what I'm doing is the same on the sides. Got my magic clips open, setting another guideline. Now I have them closed, achieving my first blend, just like I did in the back taper. Setting my next guideline, it's opened, and as you see, I'm going in the same direction that I set my guideline in, that circular motion. I want it to have that burst effect. It's one of my favorite cuts to do. This is a number 2 with my speed lines. It's open to what I call a 2.5, and I'm working my way back down just like I did in the back. So that's a 2.5, and I put my 1 back on. So I'm flicking up with a 1.5 or a 1 open, and I go between that and my 1 closed to achieve the perfect blend. Remember, it's not a 1 and a 1.5. You have the whole blade, the whole area of movement or pivot in that arm that it comes with to let you pivot back and forth, open and close. That's a lot of room to play with. Don't just work open and close. Work from open all the way to close, or from close all the way to open. Make sure you use as much as that blade as you can, and in certain areas I'm only using, as you can see, 3 or 4 teeth, just to touch certain areas. Another important point to make is that you see I always have a comb or some sort of brush or tool in my left hand. I always want to keep my canvas clean. I want to be able to see what I'm doing at all times. So I work my way over to the right side, and I'm doing the same thing on the right side as I did on the left. If you can see, I'm over on the right side using my mirror, going back and forth from right to left. I want the most symmetrical blend. I want them to mirror each other, to look almost exactly alike. Back to my magic clips. Remember, go through your clips, go through your guards, go through from open to close, close to open. Work your clippers. Don't hesitate to use a guard more than once. That's what's going to achieve that perfect blend. Quality over quantity. These are my wall heroes. These are my life right here. I love wall heroes. They're my favorite edgers or liners to use when I'm doing a lineup. I zero gap the blade. By that I mean I just match them up as close as possible to each other without overlapping the blade. That way I get the sharpest, crispest line. Just make sure you don't press too hard, because the last thing you want to do is cut somebody open. It will happen. So I'm starting off with the back of the neck, making sure both sides are even. Your mirror is your best friend. Make sure you use your mirror. As you can see, I always leave the edge up dark if I love a crispy line. As you can see, I'm not rushing through the hairline. So the most important part to me is a crispy, sharp hairline. The first thing somebody sees is that hairline. Make sure it's not crooked. Make sure it's not leaning left or right. I keep going at it until I achieve the line that I want. After I do my lineup, I always like to touch up the taper, the blend, because it seems like you can always kind of see where you may have forgot something or may have missed something after you line the person up. I love to always go back over my cut after edge up or a lineup. As you can see, his hairline, he has a widow's peak and the skin goes pretty high. So my client, I love to do a client and barber consultation. I want to ask him what he wants. He likes his edge up to be nice and crispy, and he likes me to go to the end of his hair or the beginning of where his forehead starts. So what we're doing now is curving that temple peak point, curving that arch point. Right after that, we're gonna head right into our front hairline. As you can see, it's kind of all over the place. It goes up and down. You got a widow peak, and it tends to go back down on the ends. He likes a nice crispy straight line, and he likes that widow peak knocked off, so we're gonna take it to whatever point we can without pushing his hairline back. Some hair has to come off in order to achieve this sort of line. As you can see, I'm still staying low with this hairline. I'm not pushing it up. It's way easier to push a hairline back and get a sharp line, or to paint it on, but we don't do none of that here. Well, I know I don't. I don't Photoshop pictures, and I don't paint hairlines on. It's all just hair manipulation. I manipulate hair to go where I want it to go and do what I want it to do. And that doesn't mean I push hairlines back. So if you're pushing hairlines back to try to achieve a crispy line, watch one of my videos. Do it the right way. I like to flick out the hair in the front, to take my time on the edge up in every haircut. Remember guys, this is your signature. When somebody's walking down the street and they see a haircut that you did, it's one of two ways it could go. Either it's gonna be a good thing, they're gonna ask you, hey, where'd you get your haircut at? I wanna get my haircut there. Or they're gonna say, hey, you shouldn't ever go to that barber again, he whooped you. As you can see, I'm flipping my liners back and forth because, like I said, I like to flick out that front hairline. Any hairs that hang over, I'm getting them out of the way. I want my hairline to be as crispy and clean as possible. I still have that comb in my left hand. I'm still cleaning and cleaning the canvas. Remember to use your mirror. It's one of the most helpful tools to make sure that your haircut is symmetrical. You got the left side, you got the right side. What I like to do is I like to finish up the left side and then use my mirror to do the right side, or vice versa. Do the right side and finish up with the left side using the mirror. So at this point, we're pretty much done with the cut. Now we're gonna go into texturizing, and we're gonna take maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches off the top. Here's some Paul Mitchell shears. So what I like to do here is start off with the front, where the front hairline would be. Cut all the way even, all the way across. Now what I'm doing is going right through the middle of his head and using that front hair as a guideline to make sure that my cutting is super even. Now hair never has to be perfect, because that's where it gets its texture from, is when some hair is slightly longer than other hair, not to the visible eye. You'd have to really be looking and dissecting somebody's hair in order to tell. But as you can see, I'm not going or cutting too slow. I know we're zooming through, but once you set guidelines, it's really easy to get that even cut and get it quick. You're setting yourself up for a faster, more efficient cut. So basically it's a T. I'm going from left to right or right to left over the front hairline and going right through the middle of the hair from the front all the way to the back, and then everything in between. And I'm using my guidelines, that T that I learned from one of my mentors. Big Rube taught me this. Getting whatever hair stick over the lines, making sure it's a crispy, clean haircut. I'm using Elegance gel, a little bit of gel to style. But what I really like to use to style is heat. I don't like the super greasy gelled look. I like it a little more of a dry look. I'm just using a little bit of gel on the tips of my fingers, applying it more at the root. What I'm doing is just cleaning up the haircut, a little bit of facial work, lining up his mustache, a little bit of goatee that he does have. Peach fuzz. I take perfectionist to a whole different level. So there we are. It's the final and finished product of the burst taper. Alright guys, so that concludes the burst taper tutorial video. If you like this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions on the next tutorial, please let me know in the comment section down below. For more videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, or to watch my last tutorial, click the video right here. Or if you're on a mobile device, click the link in the description box below. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Blendzino. Shout out to Flawless Victory Productions for the awesome videography and editing skills. They hooked me up. Check out their website. The link to their site is in the description box as well. Yay!